There are places in this world that hold a darkness, an energy so heavy you can feel it pressing down on you. 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York, is one of those locations. Before the world knew it as the Amityville Horror House, it was home to the DeFeo family. Ronald DeFeo Sr., his wife Louise, and their 5 children lived what seemed like a normal suburban life. But on the night of November 13, 1974, that normalcy was shattered forever. A dark energy was unleashed, staining the very soul of the house with an event so brutal, so incomprehensible that its echoes are still felt today. This was not just a crime, it was an event that opened a doorway to something else. In the early morning hours, the eldest son, Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr., took a high-powered rifle and systematically moved through the house. He went from room to room, ending the lives of his entire family as they slept in their beds. His parents, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters were all found dead, each lying face down. The sheer horror of the scene was unimaginable. The authorities were baffled. How could one person commit such a terrible act without anyone waking up or any neighbors hearing the shots? The energy in that house must have been chaotic, filled with a deafening silence that masked the violence taking place within its walls. When police arrived, they found a scene of absolute carnage. The questions began immediately. Butch DeFeo's initial story was that he had found his family murdered. But his story quickly fell apart under questioning. He soon confessed to the killings, but his motive remained a subject of intense debate. He claimed he heard voices, sinister whispers that commanded him to commit this unthinkable act. Was he truly mentally ill, or was he being influenced by a malevolent force that had taken root in the home? His confession only deepened the mystery, adding a layer of supernatural horror to the already tragic events. Ultimately, Ronald DeFeo Jr. was arrested and put on trial. His defense lawyer argued that he was insane, driven by demonic voices that he could not control. The prosecution, however, painted a picture of a troubled young man motivated by family arguments and a desire for his father's insurance money. The jury sided with the prosecution. They did not believe in the voices. They found him guilty on 6 counts of second-degree murder, and he was sentenced to 6 consecutive sentences of 25 years to life in prison. The human part of the tragedy had a conclusion, but the spiritual stain on 112 Ocean Avenue was just beginning to fester. Just over a year after the DeFeo murders in December 1975, the Lutz family saw the house as a dream come true. George and Kathy Lutz, along with Kathy's 3 children from a previous marriage, bought the large colonial home for a bargain price. They knew about the home's dark history, but they believed they could build a happy new life there. They were looking for a fresh start, a place to create positive memories. They even had a priest come to bless the house before they moved their belongings in. This act, meant to cleanse the home, instead seemed to awaken the entity that was waiting within its walls. The blessing was the first sign that something was terribly wrong. The priest reported that as he sprinkled holy water in one of the upstairs bedrooms, the former room of 2 of the DeFeo children, he heard a deep, masculine voice command him to get out. He felt an unseen hand slap him and later developed a high fever and blisters on his hands. He warned the Lutzes to stay out of that room, but his warning was only the beginning. The family's dream home was about to become a living nightmare, a place where the walls themselves seemed to be against them. The negative energy was a palpable force. Once the family moved in, the paranormal activity escalated with terrifying speed. They were tormented by strange and frightening occurrences day and night. The house was plagued by extreme cold spots that would appear without reason, even when the heat was on full blast. Swarms of flies would gather inside the house, despite it being the middle of winter. Strange odors, sometimes smelling like cheap perfume and other times like excrement, would waft through the rooms and then vanish. They would hear phantom footsteps, doors slamming shut on their own, and strange banging noises coming from the walls in the basement. The activity seemed to target the family directly, affecting them physically and psychologically. George Lutz began waking up at 3:15 a.m. every morning, the estimated time of the DeFeo murders, feeling uncontrollably cold. Kathy and her sons had nightmares, and one of the boys developed an imaginary friend named Jody, a demonic, pig-like creature with glowing red eyes. They saw green slime oozing down the walls of the hallway. After just 28 days, the family could take no more. They fled the house in the middle of the night, leaving all of their possessions behind, claiming the evil in the house was too powerful. The story of what the Lutz family endured could not be contained within the walls of 112 Ocean Avenue. Their terrifying 28-day ordeal captured the public's imagination. In 1977, author Jay Anson published a book titled The Amityville Horror, which detailed the family's alleged experiences. The book was presented as a true story and became an instant bestseller, flying off the shelves as people were captivated by the chilling tale of a demonic haunting in an ordinary American suburb. The story had everything: a gruesome true crime, a terrified family, and a powerful unseen evil that could not be explained. The book's massive success quickly led to a film adaptation. In 1979, the Amityville horror movie was released in theaters, and it became a box office phenomenon. The film brought the story to an even wider audience, cementing the house with its iconic eye-like windows as a symbol of pure evil in pop culture. The visual representation of the green slime, the red-eyed pig, and the disembodied voice shouting "Get out!" terrified moviegoers around the world. The film spawned numerous sequels, remakes, and documentaries, each one adding to the legend and ensuring that the Amityville name would forever be linked with paranormal terror. With this massive fame came intense scrutiny. As the story spread, paranormal investigators, reporters, and skeptics began to dig into the claims. Ed and Lorraine Warren, famous paranormal investigators, visited the house and conducted a seance. They claimed it was one of the most terrifying hauntings they had ever encountered, capturing a now famous photograph that appears to show the spirit of a young boy peeking from a doorway. Their involvement gave the story a powerful stamp of authenticity for those who believed in the supernatural, as the Warrens were considered leading experts in the field of demonology. However, many people began to doubt the Lutz's story. Skeptics pointed out inconsistencies and a lack of physical evidence. They argued that many of the so-called paranormal events could be explained by natural causes, such as the house settling or old plumbing. Ronald DeFeo Jr., Barr's own lawyer William Weber, later came forward and claimed that he and the Lutzes had invented the story over several bottles of wine, hoping to create a lucrative book deal. He called it a hoax, suggesting it was motivated by money. This threw the entire narrative into question, creating a deep divide between believers and non-believers. The debate over the Amityville horror continues to this day, decades after the Lutzes fled and the first book was published. On one side, you have the believers. These are people who feel a deep connection to the spiritual world and believe that evil entities can and do attach themselves to places marked by tragedy. For them, the brutal DeFeo murders created a powerful negative energy, a vortex that allowed something demonic to enter the home. They point to the priest's experience, the Warrens' investigation, and the sheer terror that drove a family from their home, with nothing but the clothes on their backs as proof that the haunting was real. On the other side are the skeptics, who demand hard evidence and logical explanations. They argue that the entire story was a cleverly crafted hoax designed for financial gain. They highlight the fact that no family living in the house since the Lutzes has reported any significant paranormal activity. They also point to the confession from lawyer William Weber as the ultimate proof that the story was fabricated. For skeptics, the Amityville horror is not a true story of a haunting, but a fascinating case study in how a compelling narrative, mixed with a real-life tragedy, can create a modern folktale that people want to believe. Despite the controversy and the arguments from both sides, the Amityville house remains one of the most famous haunted locations in the world. The story taps into a primal fear, the idea that the one place you're supposed to feel safe, your home, can turn against you. It's the ultimate violation of security. The legend endures because it blurs the line between fact and fiction, between a documented mass murder and a supernatural tale of terror. People are drawn to the mystery, to the unanswered questions that linger over the house on Ocean Avenue. Today the house still stands, though its address and iconic windows have been changed to discourage tourists. But changing the physical appearance cannot erase the energy or the history. The story of Amityville serves as a powerful reminder that some locations are forever marked by the events that took place there. Whether you believe it was a demonic entity or a brilliant hoax, the raw emotion connected to this place is undeniable. It's a location I would investigate in a heartbeat, because when a story this powerful refuses to die, it's usually because there's an energy still waiting to be understood. The truth is in there, somewhere between the history and the haunting.